Napoleon Bonaparte is one of history's most polarizing figures. In the annals of European history, his name evokes both admiration and disdain. To some, he is a hero, a brilliant strategist who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful leaders in the world. To others, he is a villain, a ruthless conqueror whose wars of expansion resulted in untold devastation and the loss of countless lives. The question of whether Napoleon was a hero or villain is a complex one, and it hinges on a variety of factors, ranging from his military genius to the far-reaching impact of his reign. In this script, we will examine Napoleon's life, his rise to power, his military campaigns, his reforms, and the legacy he left behind, all while assessing whether he deserves the label of hero or villain. The rise of Napoleon, from Corsica to emperor. Born on August 15, 1769, in Corsica, Napoleon was the son of a minor nobleman. His family had not long been part of the French aristocracy, having only recently come to power after Corsica was ceded to France by Genoa. Napoleon's early life was marked by a sense of ambition and determination. His family's modest means did not hinder his aspirations. At the age of 9, Napoleon was sent to mainland France for his education, where he attended the prestigious military academy of Brienne-le-Château. From an early age, Napoleon displayed a keen intellect and a drive to succeed. His studies in military strategy and artillery laid the groundwork for his future successes as a military leader. By 16, Napoleon had earned his commission as a second lieutenant in the French army. However, it was the tumult of the French Revolution that propelled him into the spotlight. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, led to a massive upheaval in the French political system and brought about the downfall of the monarchy. Napoleon's rise came at a time of chaos and instability, which allowed him to rise quickly through the ranks of the military. Napoleon's first major military success came in 1793 when he led French forces to victory against a British siege at Toulon, earning him a promotion to brigadier general. Over the next few years, he demonstrated his brilliance on the battlefield, securing victories in Italy and Egypt. However, his career would truly change when he returned to France in 1799, following the Egyptian campaign. France was in disarray after the revolution, and Napoleon saw an opportunity to take control. In November 1799, Napoleon orchestrated a coup d'état, overthrowing the weak French Directory and establishing the consulate, with himself as first consul. From this point forward, Napoleon's power and influence only continued to grow. In 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of the French in a ceremony that shocked the world. His decision to crown himself, rather than accept the crown from the Pope, symbolized his complete control over France and his ambition to establish a new order in Europe. The Napoleonic Wars, conqueror of Europe. Once Napoleon became emperor, he quickly set about implementing his vision of a French-dominated Europe. His military campaigns, known as the Napoleonic Wars, would last from 1803 to 1815 and would shape the fate of Europe for years to come. Under Napoleon, France would fight against a coalition of European powers, including Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Spain, among others. Napoleon's military genius was evident in these wars, and his ability to outmaneuver and defeat his enemies became legendary. Napoleon's first major victory as emperor came in 1805 at the Battle of Austerlitz, where he decisively defeated the combined forces of Russia and Austria. This victory cemented his reputation as one of history's greatest military commanders. Over the next few years, Napoleon continued to conquer large swaths of Europe, creating a vast empire that stretched from Spain in the west to Russia in the east. One of Napoleon's most significant military achievements was the creation of the Confederation of the Rhine, a collection of German states that were aligned with France. This effectively ended the Holy Roman Empire, a centuries-old institution that had once dominated Central Europe. Napoleon also implemented the Continental System, a blockade designed to cripple Britain's economy by preventing trade between Britain and the rest of Europe. While the system was initially successful, it eventually led to resentment among the nations of Europe, particularly Russia, which would lead to Napoleon's downfall. Despite his many victories, Napoleon's expansionist ambitions eventually led to his undoing. In 1812, Napoleon launched an ill-fated invasion of Russia, which would become one of the most disastrous campaigns in military history. The Russian winter, combined with fierce Russian resistance, decimated Napoleon's Grand Army, leaving him with little more than a fraction of the force that had initially crossed into Russia. This defeat marked the beginning of the end for Napoleon's empire. Napoleon's reforms, a legacy of change. In addition to his military achievements, Napoleon's reign was also marked by significant reforms that reshaped French society and left a lasting impact on Europe. Perhaps his most lasting legacy is the Napoleonic Code, a set of civil laws that became the foundation for legal systems in many countries around the world. The Napoleonic Code promoted principles such as equality before the law, religious freedom, and the protection of property rights, which were revolutionary concepts at the time. Napoleon also instituted reforms in education, government, and the economy. He centralized the French government, bringing order to a nation that had been torn apart by revolution. He established the Bank of France, which helped stabilize the French economy, and he implemented a series of economic policies that promoted industrialization and infrastructure development. Despite these achievements, Napoleon's rule was not without controversy. His authoritarian style of governance and his expansionist ambitions led to widespread resentment, particularly among the nations that were under French control. His imposition of the continental system, which sought to isolate Britain economically, hurt many European economies and led to widespread discontent. Napoleon's downfall, the end of an empire. Napoleon's downfall came swiftly after the failed Russian campaign of 1812. The coalition of European powers, which had been united in opposition to Napoleon, began to regain strength. In 1814, after a series of defeats, Napoleon was forced to abdicate and was exiled to the island of Elba. However, his exile was short-lived. In 1815, he escaped from Elba and returned to France for a brief period known as the 100 Days. During this time, he sought to reclaim his empire, but his efforts were thwarted at the Battle of Waterloo, where he was decisively defeated by a coalition force led by the Duke of Wellington. After his defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon was exiled once again, this time to the remote island of St. Helena, where he would spend the remaining years of his life. He died on May 5, 1821, at the age of 51, under circumstances that are still the subject of debate. Some believe that he died from stomach cancer, while others suggest that he may have been poisoned. Hero or villain? Was Napoleon Bonaparte a hero or a villain? The answer depends on one's perspective. From a military standpoint, there is no doubt that Napoleon was a genius. His victories on the battlefield and his ability to outmaneuver his enemies are unparalleled in history. His reign also brought stability to France after the chaos of the French Revolution, and his reforms in law, education, and government had a lasting impact on Europe. However, Napoleon's quest for empire and his willingness to engage in endless wars of conquest also resulted in immense suffering. The Napoleonic Wars caused the deaths of millions, and the destruction wrought by his campaigns was felt across Europe. His imposition of French rule on conquered territories often came with harsh penalties for resistance and little regard for local traditions or governance. Napoleon's expansionism ultimately led to his downfall. His disregard for the sovereignty of other nations and his authoritarian approach to governance earned him the enmity of many. In the end, he was defeated not only by military force but also by the coalition of European powers that he had alienated through his ambition and aggression. The legacy of Napoleon, a complex figure. Napoleon's legacy is a complex one, shaped by both his achievements and his failures. His military prowess and his impact on European politics are undeniable, but his wars of conquest and the suffering they caused cannot be overlooked. His reforms, particularly the Napoleonic Code, remain a cornerstone of legal systems around the world, but his authoritarian rule leaves a stain on his record. Ultimately, whether Napoleon is seen as a hero or a villain depends on one's perspective. To some, he is the embodiment of ambition, a man who sought to reshape Europe in his image and who left an indelible mark on history. To others, he is a ruthless conqueror who brought war and suffering to millions in his pursuit of power. What is clear, however, is that Napoleon Bonaparte was a man whose influence on the course of European history is impossible to ignore. His story is one of triumph and tragedy, of brilliance and hubris, and of a legacy that continues to spark debate and discussion to this day. As we reflect on his life and legacy, we are reminded that history is rarely black and white. The figure of Napoleon Bonaparte, like so many other historical icons, is a study in complexity. Whether one views him as a hero or a villain, there is no denying that he was a man who changed the course of history, for better or for worse. And in that sense, perhaps the true answer lies somewhere in between, acknowledging both the greatness and the flaws of this remarkable, controversial figure.
I'm happy when you comment. YouTube is happy when you share. The algorithm is happy when you subscribe. And the geniuses of history are happy when their story is finally told.